Yes, people, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are all doing well. So Manchester United have done some reasonably good business in this transfer window, bringing in the likes of Lenny Yoro, Joshua Zirkzee, Matthijs de Ligt, Nuzir Mazraoui, all signings that Manchester United fans are really excited about. And now it looks like we're very close to completing that deal for Manuel Ugarte, the Uruguayan international set to join Manchester United, the midfield destroyer. He has led the charts in terms of tackling last season in Ligue 1 and the season prior to that at Sporting Lisbon in Portugal. He's a monster in terms of the tackling. We're obviously crying out for a number 6, and I discussed this with Paul Scholes and David Ornstein today on the overlap, and now it looks like Manchester United are about to get their man. We'll get stuck into all the latest reports on Manuel Ugarte to Manchester United, and of course everything else that is floating about. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, you're liking, you're commenting, you're sharing as well. Get all your thoughts in the comments below. And Manuel Ugarte, an interesting one. When you go online, and I know social media isn't the fairest reflection of fans thinking because you just have polar opposite sides to everything. When you go online, Manchester United fans are quite not bothered about whether they sign Manuel Ugarte. Some of them saying we should sign someone else, we look elsewhere, and that usually means he'll probably go on to be a roaring success at Manchester United. But we'll take a deeper dive into what kind of player he is, his strengths, his weaknesses as well, and obviously look at those latest reports. And some of these reports are emanating from France, but you've also had the likes of Fabrizio Romano and co jump in and obviously weigh in with their thoughts on that. And the reports from France, from the Le Parisien, are that Manchester United and PSG are close to an agreement for Manuel Ugarte for a transfer fee of around 60 million euros, which is about 51 million pounds. Now, what's interesting on this is that Manchester United have been trying to get a deal done with PSG that's at a lower price to that. So whilst I think you're hearing that from France, that a deal's close to being agreed for around 51 million pounds, I think that deal will either be heavily structured in terms of bonuses, maybe, add-ons and stuff like that, or in terms of how it's paid and how many years it's paid over. Fabrizio Romano has also reported Manuel Ugarte has always been the priority for Manchester United as a midfielder. Despite rumours in recent weeks about United leaving talks to focus on different target, Ugarte has always been waiting for the Manchester United move. Negotiations continue between the clubs, and Ugarte has no doubts. And I think that's one of the things that will be helping Manchester United in this, is that Manuel Ugarte wants Manchester United. He really wants that move to Manchester United. Florian Plettenberg also went in and said, advanced negotiations now for Manuel Ugarte. You understand that Manchester United and PSG are getting closer, either a permanent deal or a loan with an obligation to buy. More details to be clarified, not a done deal yet, but all parties involved to get the deal done soon. Verbal agreement is done and sealed. Now, that verbal agreement between Man United and Ugarte has been done for a long time in terms of those personal terms. We also heard from Fabrice Hawkins as well, who says agreement's close between Manchester United and PSG, but it still needs to be finalised. Could be a loan with an option to buy, potentially an obligation to buy. PSG lowered their initial demands but don't want to lose out too much money. They bought him for 60 million euros. Man United don't want to pay high for a player who's spent most of his time on the bench. Everyone has accepted he will leave at the end of the market, and common ground needs to be found between the clubs. And what helps Manchester United in these negotiations is the fact that PSG have accepted that he will leave at the end of the market. And if they've got a player that's going to sit on the bench, a player that's heavily keen on joining Manchester United, eventually they have to come to some form of agreement. Now, Fabrice Hawkins saying they've dropped their initial demands. Initially, they wanted that 60 million euros back. So as I said, they're not going to get that 51 million pounds they get unless it's heavily structured with add-ons and things like that. And I think that could be a good move for Manchester United. At the age he's at, people talk about him as if he's finished. He's still a relatively young lad, 23, 24 years old, still got room to improve on his current ability and looking like he's much closer to Man United. And interestingly, speaking to David Ornstein today about the Manuel Ugarte move potentially, he did seem to question whether United would do that loan with an option to buy, because it still feels like PSG get their number. They just get it a little bit further down the road. So Man United are keen on doing a permanent deal, but obviously bringing that price down. And the way Manchester United have done their negotiations in this transfer window have been pretty refreshing. Everton say they want 75 million pounds for Jared Brantwaite. We go, no thank you, mate. And we buy Matthijs de Ligt and Nazir Mazraoui for a similar price, which again I think represents great value. We also bringing in Lenny Yoro, who a lot of people will question the price tag, but with the amount he's rated and the ceiling that he's got, I think that could prove to be a good bit of business. Mazraoui, by the way, I think De Ligt's a bargain. Mazraoui at £15 million. Now, basing him on the game against Fulham, he looked like a breath of fresh air for Manchester United. Good in and out of possession. Good in terms of beating the press. Good in terms of bringing that ball forward. And now Manuel Ugarte could be coming in and following him. Now, he wouldn't have been many people's first choices, but as we say, we need an alternative to Casemiro. We can't be playing him every single game and killing him. We killed him last year, I think, as well. If we can take him in and out of the team, we've got competition for him as well. I think you could see a return to the Casemiro we know and love and we brought in to the club. I also thought his performance against Fulham, against Manchester City in the Charity Shield was much better as well. The performances we like to see of him. We still have that issue, again, I discussed it with Scholes, in terms of sometimes it looks like we've got no one back there. And Manuel Ugarte coming in with the potential that he has, with the ability in terms of tackles, like we mentioned, led the way in Ligue 1 in terms of tackles, and his last season in Portugal he led there as well. And if he can bring that and replicate that to the Premier League, we'll get that midfield destroyer that we want. And the kind of player he is, he'll win the ball back, keep it simple, keep it short, and get his passes away. And that's the kind of player that we need in there. Just sit in front of that defence. Do not move from that position. Obviously, you move side to side, but don't. Sometimes we see Casemiro, he's just gone. We need someone to sit there in front of that defence, and maybe it allows the likes of Lisandro Martinez, Mathis de Ligt to progress from the back and kind of bring the ball forward as well. Manuel Ugarte, someone that I'd be really looking forward to seeing in a Man United shirt. Although, like I say, he wasn't someone at the start of the window I went, go and get him now. But you're looking at him and you think he's the right kind of player, right kind of age, and we need a little bit of that South American grit, don't we? We need a little bit of that South American grit, that Manchester United player that's going to come in, get the crowd going, flying into tackles. Getting him together alongside Lisandro Martinez, by the way, could be a treat as well. And we've seen Ugarte. I remember, was it against when he basically called the ball tossers, when they were basically saying they're all just sucking off Messi and that. But he's got a bit of character about him. He likes a bit of needle. I like that. We're also improving the physicality of the team as well. One of the issues that we've had, too easy to run through. In terms of bringing in the likes of Mathis de Ligt, who's a big lad, powerhouse as well. Bringing in Manuel Ugarte, you get that physical level up. Joshua Zirkzee is a big lad too. And I think that will improve us in terms of that aspect. His strengths, obviously referring to who scored here on his strengths, tackling, ball interception, passing and dribbling. And that's what we're going to need. Maybe less of the dribbling, but more of the tackling, ball interception and getting those passes away. His pass completion in the Champions League was 92%. In the Copa America for Uruguay was 90%. He's done really well in terms of his pass completion as well, because just keeping it short, just keeping it sweet, just keeping it simple there at the back. So it looks like Manchester United are going to get their man Manuel Ugarte. Now, it'd probably be too soon for that game against Brighton at the weekend, especially with it being Wednesday night now. The deal probably won't even be done by then. But if we can get him in for that last game before the international break against Liverpool, oh, what a debut it could be for him at Old Trafford against Liverpool. Manuel Ugarte coming in, absolutely steaming into people. And I wouldn't be surprised if he stuck one on his international teammate Darwin Núñez as well, just for good measure. But yeah, that's what's happening. That's the latest with Manuel Ugarte. Looks like we're getting closer. And if we can add a left back to that, maybe I'm being too greedy here, a left back or a strike, because you still got some departures that are going to be made. Facundo Pellistri is being linked with a move away from Manchester United. You've also got Scott McTominay, who's being linked with a move away from Manchester United. If you can get rid of those players, bring in some money, and then maybe bring in an extra one or two in terms of that left back or a striker, it'd be a 10 out of 10 window. But we're very, very close to that, especially if we do bring in Manuel Ugarte. Things are feeling good. Make sure you're keeping it locked. You're liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing to the channel as well. And as I said, we filmed an overlap today. Obviously, we had loads of fans there. David Ornstein, Paul Scholes, Jamie Carragher and myself. And we had a good chit-chat about all things Manchester United and, interestingly, Manuel Ugarte. So make sure you're keeping it locked. You're liking, you're commenting, you're sharing, you're subscribing, all that jazz. Thank you for tuning in as well. And I'll see you soon.